All right, so we're good? All right, cool. How are you guys doing?
I'm not good.
I know. Why not?
Okay, I'm good now.
Okay, cool.
I'm all right.
All right. Well, it's been nice podcasting with you guys.
Later.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
So you were saying off camera that you went on the Concorde once?
I did. Yeah, when I was a little kid.
I was on the plane last night. I was talking about how I feel really unfortunate that I didn't get to ride it because I'm an aviation freak. Was it cool, or were you too
it was
young to?
No, I do remember it pretty vividly, and it was awesome. I remember it was like a big deal that we were getting to like ride on it. So
It was a big deal.
yeah, it was sick. It was awesome.
Could you feel it when it was going 1,300 miles an hour?
Yeah, like you hit. There's like a little digital readout at the front of the plane that showed you how fast you were going, and like when you like hit Mach 1 or whatever the hell it is, like it like updated.
Jeez.
But you couldn't. You're way higher than regular planes do. I think.
Yeah,
It's like 50,000 feet or something
I think
like
it's
that.
like 60.
60. Okay.
So there's less air resistance?
I don't know.
Yeah, there is. But also there's less frame of reference against the ground or anything. So you probably really can't tell that you're going that much faster.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it being very cool.
I did read that there's a plane that they're developing or working on, maybe they're almost done with, LA to Tokyo in like 2 hours.
I saw that too.
Yeah?
How does
Yeah.
that work?
I have no idea.
I don't know if. So what I've read is that the problem with supersonic flight is that zoning ordinances and noise ordinances don't really allow for it because of the sonic boom. Have you ever heard of sonic boom in real life?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll destroy windows, but at best it'll just rattle people's houses. So they could only go supersonic over the ocean. And I think it ended up being not just inconvenient, but super expensive. And that's why they haven't done more supersonic airplanes for commercial use.
Interesting.
Yeah, fascinating to talk about on a recording podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk more about aviation.
Okay. Fine. If they do make a supersonic airliner, I'm going to go on it.
I would love
I don't
to
care
as
what
well.
the cost is. Would you go to space on commercial?
yeah.
Would you?
Are we allowed to swear?
I think
Yeah,
I would.
okay.
Yeah.
I definitely would.
Yeah, I'd go to space.
Like if it was affordable.
Go there and
If
stay
it was
there.
affordable, yeah, absolutely.
Go there and stay. Would
Yeah.
you be one of those people?
Fuck yeah, dude.
You said you're going to stay?
Yeah, I'll just stay up
In
there.
space, yeah.
Well,
Well,
Bye.
did you hear about those people recently that were signing up for? I don't know if it was a legit thing, but they were trying out to sign up for a one-way trip to Mars, not come back, and lots of people signed up.
I'm about it.
And not astronauts and normies
Just
and
people.
stuff, but
yeah.
so you'd do that?
If I didn't have kids, I probably would. Yeah, why not? But
I mean, you would have no interest in coming back?
no.
Fair enough. I can see that.
I'll do round trip.
Round trip,
Yeah.
but I don't think that was an option.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm just
No, I'm good.
putting it out there.
What about you, Brody?
Join me, Brody.
I mean, I think it depends if Taco Bell got there before me.
that's a good point, actually.
'Cause
Good point. You raise a good
If
point.
there was like Taco Bell and coffee, I don't know. I probably would go.
Is there weed on Mars?
Yeah, that too.
In The Martian, he had Vicodin.
He
Yeah.
did.
He did, but he ran out.
If it's just Matt Damon and a bunch of fucking potatoes, I'm not really interested.
Yeah.
But if there's coffee and weed and Taco Bell and Carson, I mean, I would probably go.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Did you see Interstellar the year that The Martian came out?
Yeah, I did.
Interstellar. I've seen it like 10 times.
Same here.
Yeah.
Did you think it was funny at all that a similar cast?
Oh, with
was
just Matt Damon pops up in the
Same
middle of the
guy,
movie.
Well, not just
basically.
Matt Damon. There were other people that were in Interstellar that were in The Martian, and it came out at the same time. So
Oh,
in the
who
preview,
else
I think
was-
Jessica Chastain, I believe.
Okay.
I
I saw
could
The
be
Martian
wrong.
like once.
I just remember seeing the preview, and it was some of the same people. I was like, is this like a prequel or a sequel.
Yeah.
What is going on here? Had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I liked Interstellar more.
Interstellar
Fuck
was sick.
yeah.
The soundtrack was amazing.
Yeah.
And have you ever watched the bonus features on the Blu-ray with
Yes.
the Hans
Yeah.
Zimmer making the soundtrack
Yeah.
with that pipe organ? It's amazing.
The reasoning behind it is great. What he was saying was that, well, first of all, they wanted to use something that they had never used on one of their film scores before, in the Chris Nolan, Hans Zimmer collaborations. But also the reason that they chose that pipe organ was because Interstellar is about this technology that's beyond anything. You know, it's the next level of technology, and that's what that pipe organ was at its time, was the most complex piece of technology that people had ever created.
That's
so
a
it was
cool connection.
kind of,
That's
yeah,
cool.
so it was appropriate. And also because I guess I'm a non-religious person, but because of the religious connotation of a pipe organ, and then also of how,
Some of the philosophical
Yeah.
themes in the movie.
Yeah.
It's great. I thought it was very fitting. It's such a unique sounding score.
yeah, totally. It's interesting because normally those kinds of sounds come from huge brass in scores, at least in Hans Zimmer scores especially, but they specifically wanted to avoid brass because they had done it, I wouldn't say to death because it was all great, but
Yeah.
the Inception and the Batman movies and all that were just
Yeah.
like brass spectacles.
It's a more minimalistic approach.
Yeah, but it's huge.
I could that's like one of those, that's like Interstellar is like one of those soundtracks that like no matter where I drop in, like where on the track listing I drop in, I absolutely know that that's what I'm listening to. Like there's like very few soundtracks I think that do that to me. Another one is the Fountain.
Yeah.
Clint Mansell, is that his name?
Yeah.
Who did that? He also did like same guy who did stuff for Requiem for a Dream and stuff. Like
He's the guy who works with Darren Aronofsky.
yeah, like that. A lot of the stuff that he's done as well has an instantly recognizable theme to my ear for some reason.
So that Requiem for a Dream music is interesting because it got really famous, but then it started, I don't know if you noticed, but for like 10 years, it was in every single preview ever for
Yeah.
a dramatic movie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I actually heard Aronofsky say that it bummed him out a little bit
Yeah.
because it was so perfect for Requiem for a Dream. And then it's like in a disaster movie
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It kind of took away the power of that whole thing.
There's another, it's not a full score, but it's like just another song like that. It's called On the Nature of Daylight, and it's in like every single movie ever. It was, I forget what movie it was originally in. It was a bigger movie, and it was an awesome song. When you heard it, you're like, wow, that's like super memorable and specific to this film. And then I've seen it in probably a dozen things since then. It's just been reused. It's really weird.
You don't remember who wrote it?
No, I just remember that it's called On the Nature of Daylight.
It's one of those things I'd probably recognize if I heard it.
Instantly.
Yeah.
It's an instant, like you would absolutely know if you heard it. I forget who wrote it. He's done a lot of stuff. If anyone,
I'm gonna look into it now.
Definitely look it up. It's On the Nature of Daylight. It's been in so much stuff.
If
but
only we had a device that
Only
we
we-
could
yeah.
look this up on.
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, let me know.
We're technologically limited here.
Another one is the theme from 28 Days Later.
yeah,
Oh, that's so. Is it Godspeed?
I'm not sure.
that
Godspeed,
Godspeed,
You
You
Black
Black
Emperor?
Emperor did that.
I'm pretty sure.
Really?
It was either Godspeed or like Explosions in the Sky. I'm pretty sure it was Godspeed.
The like heavy one.
They have a song, like the scene where Cillian Murphy first wakes up and he doesn't know what's going
then he
on. He's walking
realizes-
around the town.
Yeah.
That song that's playing through that whole like portion of the movie is Godspeed. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Pretty
That's why.
sure.
That's probably why
Correct
I like
me if
that
I'm
so
wrong,
much. Interesting.
We can, and On the Nature of Daylight, it turns out was by Max Richter.
Good job, Max.
Yeah,
I have no idea who that is, but good job, Max.
So yeah,
It's weird. I would have thought that there was some sort of exclusivity or something.
It's been in
with
a lot of
these movie
shows
scores.
too, like a lot of like Netflix exclusive stuff, and and whatnot. So I don't know if the licensing works differently for that kind of thing, but I've definitely seen it in probably 10 or 12 things.
Yeah, it's a Godspeed song on
Is
28
it?
Days Later
Damn.
soundtrack.
That's cool. I like that soundtrack even more now.
I've seen, if we're talking about the same thing, the same part, I've seen it in lots of different previews now.
Yeah, they've used it in some other movies for sure.
How do you feel about that? I mean, it's great for the composer, because the composer, and I guess it makes me happy whenever I hear about someone who writes music having more income opportunities. But on an art level, it kind of bugs me a little.
I see that angle of it, and I would say that I mostly agree with that angle, because for me, when I see a movie like 28 Days Later, for instance, and that song is introduced to me, my brain connects it to that imagery, right? And it colors that imagery for me emotionally. Like how I watch the movie is very much dictated by the score and what's happening underneath the scene, musically. But when I start seeing that same piece of music pop up in other movies, it's, at first I'm kind of, of the mindset of like, well, that belongs in that first movie. But it might be interesting to pair that same music that you have this previous association with new imagery, and maybe it'll produce a completely different emotion for you, So
like the Star Wars theme in a slasher film.
Right, exactly. That's the perfect example. Yes, so
That's a great inception in a romantic
I love that
comedy.
they used that Star Wars music in that new movie Hereditary. It's really, really effective.
The thing is, I often wonder if it's the composer's idea to do that, or if it's purely a commercial motivation, that someone who owns the rights, who's not the composer, is like, this is cool theme, we'll use it for this. And the composer just, deals because they got paid and getting paid.
Check. Yeah. So, I mean, it makes perfect sense. But I think it can be interesting. I've seen it done effectively before, is my point, I guess.
So what about something, I mean, you just made the joke about Star Wars, but what about something like iconic, like the James Bond theme or something, where it's so clearly that?
That, if it's written specifically for a character or a specific movie, I think that's a completely different thing.
So if Jason Bourne suddenly had the James Bond theme?
Yeah, that would not
weird.
work. I don't think that would work. Those iconic themes that are written specifically for a character, like, or a franchise like the Star Wars theme or the James Bond theme, obviously that wouldn't work. If you take a Godspeed song and put it in another movie as background music, perhaps it could work.
I guess though, but they don't know it's going to be a franchise when they write it. Like
True.
The James Bond, I know that when they made Dr. No, they had a tiny budget, and they didn't know that it was going to turn into some worldwide phenomenon that lasted over 50 years. He just wrote a theme for that movie, and then it got huge. So I figure the guy who wrote the Requiem for a Dream song theme, the famous one, was probably thinking, this is how I feel about dying from drugs and getting your arm cut off.
Yeah.
And all the terrible things that happened in that movie.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of Timothy Dalton running away from a volcano.
Exactly.
Or something.
Yeah.
No, I did see it in a preview for a Timothy Dalton. Was it not Timothy Dalton? It was Pierce Brosnan. Sorry, I'm getting my bonds.
Is it Roger Dalton? Is that the guy's name?
No.
No, Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton was a Bond, but
Roger
I think
Moore.
Pierce.
Roger Moore, yeah.
No, he wasn't in a volcano movie. It was Pierce Brosnan was in a volcano
Dante's
movie.
Peak.
Yeah. Okay, Dante's Peak. So in the preview to Dante's Peak was the Requiem for a Dream music. I just don't think that the composer was thinking
I think it can
Bond running from a volcano.
Exactly, yeah. I think it completely depends on the context.
Fair enough.
But like I said, my first thing when I see stuff like that is just that belongs in that first movie,
Totally.
I just saw Rivers of Nihil in a yogurt commercial. It was
That
sick.
was probably good.
Yeah.
What am I still doing here then?
I mean,
It's like marketed to like women in their young 30s.
are you going to
and
go
midday
buy
TV.
a Bentley next after that yogurt commercial?
God,
I'd
that
probably
yogurt
do
money.
the Rolls Royce Phantom, but yes.
Fair enough.
Something along those lines for sure.
So speaking of Rivers of Nihil,
Right.
you guys know each other, right?
Wait, you're in a band, dude?
Who are you?
How long have
don't-
you guys known
I don't
each
know.
other?
Since at least 2009, right? We were just talking about
Since Carson,
how depressingly long ago
Yeah.
we did that first EP.
Carson was 27 when he recorded our first EP.
He's 48 now.
He is 40,
I'm 67
49 now.
Please don't age. Don't be ageist.
Yeah, we've known each other for, I guess, 10 or more years. You guys were both playing in Century together.
That dates
and
it.
Yikes.
Me and Biggs's old thrash band played with you guys at some like skate park.
Oh shit! I
So you
feel
guys
like
were
I
in another
remember
band?
that.
Yeah.
What band? What was it called?
Dissian.
It
was like
fucking totally remember that.
Hilariously horrible thrash band.
Would that have been like Soundwave?
No, maybe. I don't know. I just remember there was like a half pipe behind us.
I remember that show specifically.
And you guys showed up super late, just looking like super bummed, and like, and I guess Biggs knew you because you recorded "Dim the Lights."
Yeah.
And like there was that whole connection. He's like, yo,
Amazing.
He's like, that's Carson, who did "Dim the Lights," and I think that's when I met you. for
Local
the first time.
celebrity,
Yeah,
right?
local celebrity shows up with the leather jacket. What's up?
Glasses
Carson?
inside. Sunglasses.
Yeah,
that is.
sunglasses.
I'm just a fucking prick, dude.
10 years I've known these guys pretty much. Yeah.
I didn't realize that you guys have a long history in bands together.
Yeah, Grant and I were in a band over 10. Well,
I mean, I've known you since like 2004.
that sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right.
You were recording August Burns Red demos while I was still in high school.
Yeah, and you had your
So-
pop punk band.
Yeah.
And you came in and recorded with me. You were actually one of the first handful of bands I ever recorded. It was your pop punk band, my own band at the time, August Burns Red, who was a local band at the time doing demos.
Who?
And I don't know. I forget. There were a couple other, my friend Gary's band, Seven Revolutions. You know Gary Conahan? He's in the group. Great dude. Also a very, very good producer engineer. And yeah, man, I remember that like it wasn't that long ago, but it was a long.
It was
15
time.
years.
It was 15 fucking
Yeah, it
years.
was a while ago. So you guys worked together on an EP when you guys were local?
Like the first thing we ever recorded back in 2010, I believe, at the old Grant Street location.
Yeah, man.
So,
Yeah.
and then you went to Rutan next.
Well, so we recorded that EP with Carson, and then we recorded another EP with this dude, Len Carmichael, who...
I know that name.
Yeah, he primarily works with like hardcore bands, I think.
I think he's a URM subscriber.
Yeah, I think he is actually, but he recorded our next EP, and then we came back to Atrium Audio and recorded 3 songs with Grant, which actually...
Fuck you, Carson.
Yeah, Carson was not
Yeah,
there
what was
for
I
that
doing?
one. I don't know.
We didn't work together at that time.
Oh, we were just doing our own thing?
Yeah.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Were you guys signed yet?
No, that's
Okay.
what actually ended up getting us signed were those 3 songs that we did with Grant.
So
which
Grant got you signed, and then you ditched him for Rutan.
Grant.
Essentially,
Oh,
yeah.
Grant.
Loyal.
Well, okay, so
So loyal.
what really happened is we recorded those songs with Grant, did a music video for one of them. That got us on Metal Blade's radar, as well as Rutan's radar. And Rutan, I guess, kind of like, knowing the people at Metal Blade, he worked with us to get us in with them. So for our first record, not going to him would have kind of been a direct, fuck you to him.
Totally.
So we did do our first record with him, which, wasn't a huge learning experience for us. We were all 20, 19, 21 years old. Like we were just shitheads.
Well, Grant,
Yeah,
we were just talking about this. How did you feel working with them? And then I'm sure that you were thinking, if I can get this band signed, I'll get to do the record.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be that kind of thought in the back of your head, like, well, I worked with them, so hopefully, they're going to come back and we're going to make more music together. And sometimes it happens, a lot of times it does. And, there's times where it doesn't. And there's always going to be a part, inside my head where I'm just like, oh, that kind of sucks. Like, I would really love to do that. But at the same time, like, I don't really, like, it's their choice and their decision. So it's
Yeah,
like,
you're saying that now that you're older and more mature and have a well-established career. But that sounds like when you were first establishing your career. But I guess what I'm getting at is too, no matter how much it bugged you, you obviously didn't ruin your relationship,
No, I don't think there's
which a lot of people do when that happens.
There's no reason for bad blood. I don't know. It's just
We've always pretty much been of the mindset that a band needs to make their own decisions and trust that the band is making the best decision for where they're at any given time. So you can never, as a producer, take it personally if one band, even if you worked with this band a lot, decides to go try something new. You know, that's their prerogative. That's something that they need to do. And a lot of times, at least for bands that I know that I've worked with who have gone on to work with other people as well, even if I wanted to continue working with them, they typically come out of it having learned a lot more as a band from just having that different experience working with someone different in the production capacity. You know,
actually a perfect example of this, because my old band, This or the Apocalypse, we did an album with Carson, and actually I guess they did 2 albums with you.
Yeah.
Sentinels and Monuments.
Right.
Well, when I joined the band, we did that album with you, and then I got this other opportunity through like Chris Adler, and then we went and worked with Josh Wilbur. So we actually did go and record with somebody else, but then I learned all this stuff.
I remember you came back from those sessions and you were like, look at all this stuff that I learned from Josh. And it was awesome because then it kind of trickled down to me too, and I learned some stuff indirectly from...
Well, because Josh learned everything from Andy Wallace. So really, like...
You pass down knowledge through these different opportunities, you know, and
That's a super mature way to look at it. I guess I'm bringing this up because I see this in the URM group a lot, and I know that me personally, it's bugged the shit out of me in the past when a band was supposed to come back and then didn't.
Right.
So I see a lot of people posting about how it's happened and they're really, really bummed about it. And I agree with you guys. That's the right attitude, 100%. But what I'm wondering is how you dealt with it in the moment. Like, I guess I realized that you can tell yourself that stuff, but there's still this emotional. There's got to be this emotional, like,
oh, absolutely.
It stings a little bit, right?
For example, if the band August Burns Red, like I mentioned before, the way I met them was when I first started getting into recording and first started learning about it myself. They were like the 3rd or 4th band I ever recorded when they were a local band. And they were unsigned and they were playing local shows, you know? And we recorded a bunch of demos together, and they ended up basically being over like 3 or 4 sessions. They essentially comprised the band's first album that they did for Solid State, Thrill Seeker. And so I essentially did all the pre-pro for that record. And those were the demos that eventually got them signed to Solid State, and they did that first record with Adam D. And at the time, I remember I was really hoping, I was thinking like, oh man, I would really love to get this full-length album and have it be like my first big thing or whatever, because this band just got, like, have it be my first signed band that I recorded, right? And at the time, and then I heard that they were going to go do the record with Adam D. And at the time, I thought that I was going to be kind of bummed about it, but I was actually real stoked because I was a big Killswitch Engage fan. And I knew that they, having become my friends by that point, would come back from that experience and give me a whole bunch of information that I could use to make my own career more productive.
And how can you tell them not to go do something?
no,
you
can't.
I just remember, like, at that moment, I remember that specific instance because it was still super early, probably within the first year of me starting to record other bands. And it was one of those things that I could have gotten really bummed about. But I remember being really excited about it, and that kind of set the tone for how I approach those types of things since then till now. I mean, you can't get, you'll always be a little bummed if you were trying to really gun for a project and you end up not getting it. But I think at the end of the day, not being mature and professional, not burning a bridge, and handling things in a level-headed way is always going to be the best option for you. Because look what happened. Eventually, August Burns Red started coming back, and we've done their last 5 records.
And Brody and Sons.
Yeah, and they've
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's something to be said for maintaining friendly relationships with people, even if people in bands, even if they end up going and working with someone else in a production capacity, because A, you can learn a lot of stuff, B, you don't burn a bridge or show everybody that you're immature.
It's kind of like that whole business 101, don't let emotions dictate a business decision, you kind of have to wrangle that in your head.
Exactly.
Totally.
But even taking all the strategic, thinking away from it, I just think that if you approach those types of situations with that mindset, you're going to have more positive outcome, and you're going to learn more. So
I do think, though, for people starting out, it's easier said than done.
Sure.
Because when you are in a situation where you're struggling and you finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, I could be getting this band signed that are my friends, this could finally be how I break through and can quit delivering pizza or whatever. It can be it could be crushing if you look at it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Could be.
Well, here's a really easy way to look at that. Tell yourself in those instances, is this the last album that this band is ever going to make? And if the answer is no, then you have a chance to do an album down the road. And if the answer is yes, then they're probably not a band in a position where it's going to benefit you anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And what's funny is I see a lot of people getting bummed about it with bands that don't matter.
Right, yeah, of
just
course.
Really bad local bands went to the other studio that has a board because they care about that for some weird reason.
It's silly to get sour about stuff like that.
Totally. So, Brody, obviously they were cool enough about it that you came back. But I imagine for you, a young death metal band working with Rutan, because, I remember Rutan and Morbid Angel when I was 15 or 16.
Yeah.
I think I'm older than you. Rutan was a fucking hero. I remember him being the dude in Morbid Angel that had the great solos, and then
he's so sick, dude.
Yeah, and then he started recording. The recordings were not so good at first, but then they got better and better and better. And he's just a legend. So I'm sure for you guys, getting to go with Rutan was just wow.
Yeah, it was horrifying.
As in intimidating?
Yes.
Yeah.
We were,
I can imagine.
like I said, 19, 20, 21 years old. First record on a record label. We were completely underprepared. We had watched all of the Cannibal Corpse DVDs and all the, Mana Studios videos on YouTube and saw how, all these legendary death metal records have been recorded there. And we thought this is exactly how it's going to go for us. We're just going to go in there and do it, it's going to be great. And, while it was, it was definitely one of the biggest learning experiences of my entire life. I am glad that I did it, that it happened, because I don't think without that first record being recorded with Eric that I would have made the decisions, or we would have made the decisions that we've made as a band since then. I mean, we took a lot away
because of his taskmaster-like tendencies.
Yeah, and I think just it showed us a lot about how things really worked in reality versus how we saw them on a DVD, for example. At that point, we had heard Kill from Cannibal Corpse and Evisceration Plague, and we thought that we're going to go in there and we're just going to get a record like that,
Just like that.
Just like that, and
Cook me up one of those.
Right, exactly. And it was our first record on, and we're a nobody death metal band. So as you can imagine, the budget was tiny, right? We had to
it was $3,000 or something.
I think it was five. I think it was $5.
Damn.
Yeah. And
big money.
Yeah. And so we went in there and we had to do that whole record in 2 weeks. Right? No, so we didn't do anything beforehand.
Better be ready.
And we weren't. Like whereas with these guys, I've done the guitar and the bass and everything on my own and brought it to them, and then we do the record from there at their studio. On that first record, we didn't have anything before we went in. We had the album written and some shitty pre-production, and that was about it. And we had 2 weeks to make a record, and we thought we were just going to go in there and shit out a kill quality record or evisceration plague quality record. And, those records took 2 months to make, because they had real budgets and they were real professionals, and we were absolutely not that. And it was definitely a huge learning experience for us. We lost 2 band members as a result of that recording session.
What caused them to leave?
Just the absolute like the realization of them having to play their parts. To
that standard.
Our original drummer, those sessions crushed him, because as you can imagine, Eric Rutan, being a guy who still works with tape a lot, even when he's recording on the Goat Whore records and whatnot that he's done in the last few years. And I think he did the last Hate Eternal record to tape, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, knowing how he is with, expecting performances out of people just, like that, to the standard that you would to, be recording to tape, he takes that into the digital realm as well. And for our drummer, who was 19 years old, we were all completely unprepared. All right, go.
You can fix that, right?
Well, and that's the other thing, is that because we had done records with these guys before, and we saw how we can do drum comps and then punch this in and then, slide this over and whatever. We thought that's just how it was everywhere, So we go to Eric, who doesn't really do any of that stuff, and we absolutely needed it. And it really taught us a lot about ourselves as people and players. So like I said, it was a very difficult time. But
describe what an average crushing guitar session would be like.
Well,
just give us a little
okay, so
little description.
Believe it or not, one of the slower songs on that record and easier songs to play on that record was one of the ones that took the longest. It was a song called Soil and Seed, and it was a very slow, grooving, Morbid Angel kind of tune. And we're recording it with Eric hilariously, right? So there was a lot of octaves, in that song, and we tuned very low down to F sharp on 7 strings. So you can imagine the intonation issues we have. And Eric's ear for, tuning issues
tuning Nazi
is insane. And there were, for that song in particular, I remember we spent 6-7 hours on one section of that one song on guitars, and it was 3 or 4 octave chords maybe.
Mm-hmm.
That was just how it was. And we would start our sessions at, I think, noon or 1 in the afternoon and go until whenever, because he said that death metal you don't record death metal during daylight or something like that. So we were just fried. You
didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
That's
The unwritten rule, man.
Yeah.
That's common knowledge.
Yeah. We were all whacked out during those sessions because of the schedule, but in hindsight, it's kind of cool. That there's still somebody that's doing shit that way. I mean, he has a very specific sound. When you go to Eric, you know what you're getting.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's
a real producer.
I think it's cool. It has a very, from what I've read of how things used to be at Mara Sound Studios and all of the old school studios, it's still very much like that at Mana Studios. And I still talk to Eric regularly. I mean, I saw him when he came through with Cannibal Corpse a couple of months ago. We've toured with Hate Eternal since then. We've stayed, in touch and good friends. And it's kind of funny to joke with him about, because, we use Kempers and stuff, and we've recorded records that have a more modern sound to them. So he always busts our balls about certain things, and we give him shit for being an old man and all that. So it's kind of funny how our relationship has, continued over the years. We're still good friends, and I'm very glad to have done that record with him, because it taught us a lot about what to do next. You know,
it was a really important experience, I would say.
absolutely.
Just for you guys as a band.
Sounds like boot camp.
It absolutely was. That's exactly what it was. And I wouldn't have done it any differently. I mean, maybe I would have, but I can't have done it any differently. So here we are.
So when you got them back, were they like a changed band?
I mean, it was definitely a different
lineup,
process.
too.
Yeah.
You could tell that they'd learned a whole lot, and so had we, you know, in that time.
Yeah, I mean, we both had changed so much. I mean, you know, I think Brody came in with at least really solid pre-production, if not tracks that we were using at that point, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I tracked the whole record, guitar and bass, on Monarchy. So
yeah. So it was just a different level of preparation and, you know, musicianship and expectations and versus reality. And
I learned my lesson, like, through the Eric thing. You know, I learned a lot of, especially a lot about tuning and intonation, like truly being in tune. I went out and bought like a mechanical strobe tuner. I got all crazy with that for a while. And, you know, applying that to what I went on to do with these guys and with other projects, like, that's like definitely one of the most important things that I took away from that.
So what are some of the things, just for guitar players out there, that you changed up tuning for intonation and tuning that just became part of how you work that you didn't do previous?
I guess just like if I'm recording a section, you know, that's up higher on the neck, tuning the guitar, if I'm having intonation issues, because we do tune very low, tuning the guitar for that riff, right? So if I'm playing a power chord up on or an octave chord up on, you know, the 9th fret or whatever, and it's just in tune when it's open, it's obviously not going to be in tune when you're up there perfectly. So a lot of times what I'll do is, you know, if I have a section that's up a little higher or has a lot of octaves in it, I'll, you know, stop recording and I'll tune the guitar for that specific section to a strobe tuner, which I didn't know anything about strobe tuners when we went in for our first record, and let alone intonation at all, really.
Crucial.
Yeah, crucial. And, you know, now you have stuff like the
Evertune?
the Evertune bridges, which I've never worked with, but it looks like a godsend for rhythm tracking.
It makes rhythm tracking go way faster. And typically if there are bendy parts, we'll just punch those in afterwards, you know, because you can set the guitar up to bend. But when it's in bend stop mode, it just makes everything fly. From a logistical, you know, time saving perspective, it is definitely a godsend.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the intonation stuff in particular, and like string gauges, like using like a 22P G string, which I never would have done before. I probably would have used like a 15 or a 17, you know, just to like have like the tuning stability, you know, for such a low tuning, like just stuff like that I never would have thought of. Picks,
Having the right scale length.
I mean, luckily, we have like a deal with Kiesel guitars, and they make 27-inch scales, so that's super friendly for our tuning. Using different picks than you would use live, like the Dunlop, the green Dunlop picks, the Tortex ones. Normally I would use Jazz 3 picks live, but using them on a record, it just sounds better.
Thank you for saying that. We just released a guitar course.
Yeah.
We made it with Andrew Wade that, you know, it's called Ultimate Guitar Production, and that's what it is. It goes from setup all the way through mixing, everything between, and there's a lot of sections about stuff like that, like picks, where there's shootouts and lots of shootouts of like 8 different picks and string brands, string gauges, like all that, just to show that it makes a huge difference. And what we found was interesting was, I guess sometimes I get sometimes I take this stuff for granted just because I've done it for so long. It's just like, obviously, different picks matter. You shouldn't, what you use live because it feels best isn't necessarily what's going to sound best. Sometimes I take it for granted, and we have so many URM students who've been around for so long that they know that. So sometimes, and I need to keep reminding myself of this, so lots of people don't know this yet, and we got a lot of people who were like, fuck you, I use this, and you're not going to tell me to use this other pick, I use this pick. Then they'd watch the shootouts and try it and be like, whoops, I was an asshole.
Yeah, I think that
basically,
I think that in the genre we play, the jazz 3-pick has kind of become the standard for the metal dude. And for live, it's fine, but I've definitely like ran some tests myself, and compared to like a big old green Tortex, there's just no competition. Like there's something about those transients that just like pop in a way sicker way on just the 88s. I think that's what Dimebag used for his like entire career, were the green 88 Tortexes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something about those picks that sound to me better than, you know, those prime tone picks. Like any picks that, like, we had, I don't know, like 12 or 15 different kinds of picks, and for whatever reason the old Tortexes won out. You'll burn through them like crazy because it's Tortex, but they just sound better for whatever reason. I don't know.
And
You use the Jazz 3s just for comfort live?
Yeah, and
Okay.
for solos or whatever. I've actually switched over to Dunlop released a Tortex Flow pick recently, which I've found is kind of like the best of both worlds. You get that like really easy rolling in between strings like you get with the Jazz 3s, but you also get the nasty like pick attack of the big green Tortexes. So I've been using those lately, live and for recording, and I really like them. But yeah, just stuff like that I never thought about before. Through the Rutan experience, it really like turned my eyes inward to myself, like, and taught me a lot about what I was doing wrong and what I could do from there on out.
Made you do some soul searching.
some soul searching, you know?
What were you about to say, Grant?
The other thing to point out is just like, even once you have that pick choice and the guitar strings and the tuning and the amp and everything, if you hand all that stuff to another guitar player, then it sounds completely different.
Absolutely.
Completely. So the playing, you know, obviously has a big hand in that too.
You put me on John Petrucci's rig.
Yeah.
Then it sounds like John Petrucci.
Exactly like John Petrucci.
That's, I mean, you know, he gave me his rig and I subbed for him one night, and
You never sounded better, right?
yeah, he never sounded better.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's, I mean, I think it's the same with drums
Oh, yeah.
and bass too. Their Cold Chamber was recording at my old studio, and I had to do a project that was scheduled before them, but it just so happened that Cold Chamber was coming in, and I agreed to let them use my place. I wasn't the one recording Cold Chamber, but I had this other thing planned.
Is that
and-
Mark?
Yeah, Mark did it. And so I was like, look, you can use my drum room, but I have to record this. I can't. Like, this band is driving from California. This has been booked for 6 months. This is my studio. I'm using it. Let's figure something out. Cold Chamber were cool enough to allow us to just use their set with the condition that nothing got moved. So nothing got moved. So the drummer from the other band was cool enough too to just be like, all right, that's fine. We'll use that set. It is what it is. And I find most drummers can adjust. If they're good drummers, they can adjust. They have to live all the time.
Yeah.
So anyways, same setup, same microphones, same. Sounded radically different.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had that experience lots of times. It's not just guitars. That whole thing about the tone is in the hands is so true.
Yep.
It really is. Chris, the guitar player in Grant and Carson's band, he had a Mesa Boogie Mark V for a while, and I remember him telling me that he set his up just like John Petrucci set his up in all of the Mesa videos that he does demos for, and it sounded fucking horrible when Chris played it. Like, it's like,
Well, that makes sense.
well, I mean, it does make
Makes
sense,
perfect
but yeah, I mean, that just goes to show you,
Chris,
like,
what they're saying is,
yeah,
We're just kidding, Chris.
yeah. But yeah, it goes to show you, I mean, John Petrucci can make it sound, you know, like a dream, and then give it to Chris or anyone else. And
That's
it's,
that's the interesting thing to me about all these guitar tone packs that are really popular now, just especially with the Kemper, and everyone's selling Kemper packs, and we sold a Kemper pack. It's interesting to see how a lot of those tones are based on a specific person's playing,
yeah.
and then someone buys them because they're marketed to, like, oh, this is that guy's tone, but then they play it and it sounds completely different.
absolutely.
But, you know, obviously there's some wiggle room there. You can tweak them and everything. But it's interesting to me to see different people's opinions of some of these tone packs. Like some people love them, some people hate them for that specific reason.
I mean, I feel like it's the same almost as like I'm gonna buy Mariah Carey's microphone, so I should sound like her, right? Like
I thought you did.
Yeah,
You do sound exactly like Mariah
Look like
Carey.
her.
I've got
too.
her range.
You do.
Pretty
Look,
hot,
you are a
Grant.
striking resemblance to Mariah Carey.
I actually sold before URM really got going. I had UKM with Finn, our marketing guy. It was Unstoppable Killing Machine, and
That's probably a good name to these
To
days.
change?
No,
oh, we changed it because when we changed it to recording,
that's a Terminator reference, right?
it was just a cool name,
Okay.
but not a cool name for an education company.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But we sold tone packs. This was like in 2015. We did one with John Brown for Monuments, and he did not recreate his tones. He used the actual tones because he was using Line 6 stuff at that time. So his actual tones just exported from his software that were on his records, and they used live and sound amazing when he plays.
Yeah.
Because he's got gorilla hands. He's incredible. But he plays super low gain. Like super low gain. It's almost like overdriven tone. It's almost not distortion. It's not high gain. And any normal human, I mean, maybe Hetfield could make it sound cool because he's got that right hand. But
Yeah.
most normal human guitar players would play it and be like, what is this shit? I know that when I played it, I was like, really? This is it?
Yeah.
But it was the actual tone. And I've also noticed that we've been using Kemper for a long time. Whenever I try to use a tone that somebody else got, it just wouldn't.
It's the same for me.
I mean, sometimes it might work. It might, but that's more luck of the draw. In general, that's not even really what it was intended for.
No.
It was intended for people to be able to capture
Exactly.
a really great tone in the moment, so that if the mic gets knocked or the band wants to go on tour and recreate their tones, or you have to reamp it, or you have an album that's done over multiple periods of time,
Yeah.
that you have this tool that mitigates that problem. It wasn't meant for guitar player X to take
No.
guitar player Y's tone. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It never has.
It takes everything into consideration, like your strings, your tuning, your playing style, your like literally everything in your signal chain. It takes that into consideration. And same with me, like anytime I've used another person's profile, there are a few, especially like some of the lower gain stuff where it gets close, but there's always something just not right about it, which is why we all, like, at least since working with these guys, every time we get a tone on a record that we like, we instantly profile it so we have it, and like, you know, it's just there. But yeah, same thing, like anytime anyone's sent me their profiles, I've always been kind of bummed because it's something missing. I don't know.
I remember getting the Keith Merrow ones, and Keith is a tone master. I got them and was like, no offense, Keith. Like when he plays them,
Yeah.
they sound incredible.
Yeah.
I remember getting those, or then I got Ola's, and I was like, what's going on? I mean, we just had Ola on Nail the Mix for The Haunted, and
Yeah.
man, his tone, I don't know if you heard that one.
I have
on
actually.
So
Dude,
sick.
that tone is
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Unbelievable. He's an unbelievable tone guitar player. But I would play on his profiles and be like, I don't know. It doesn't sound like him. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're not, because they're not profiling his hands or his brain.
Yeah.
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 Pretty soon we'll be able to do that.
We'll get there.
Yeah. And then the
In 20 years from now.
cyborg apocalypse will be upon us. Skynet.
It'd
Hopefully.
be interesting to see how music production changes when that happens.
Yeah, it will be. It will be interesting.
Well, when computers can figure out creativity, then I'll worry.
They're kind of there.
They're almost there. AI, honestly, not to be all tinfoil hat and stuff, but like this is upon us. You know?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. But I've heard people say that it's not even close.
So they've made
Deep fakes, man.
Yeah, well,
But that's fulfilling that's like a certain task. the deep fake thing. It's not like thinking of it on its own.
So I'm sure someone will listen to this and like correct me or something. I don't remember the name of the program, but apparently there's there's an algorithm that can essentially write symphonies in the style of any of the famous composers, and it has stumped or it has fooled world-class experts on this.
I'd like to see that.
It is just like you put into the computer, write something that sounds like Bach, right? And it'll do something, and it's a completely original piece, but it sounds like Bach, and experts have been fooled.
The ones I've heard haven't sounded that great. Like, you remember the one?
This is just an article.
You remember
I've
the
never
one that
actually
was going around?
read it or listened to it.
Do you remember the one that was going around with ArcSpire actually about a few months ago?
I saw that. Yeah,
It wasn't good.
No. What was it?
It was this AI learning death metal, and it I guess it analyzed a bunch of ArcSpire tunes and then randomly generated new ArcSpire tunes, and it was occasionally you'd get a cool part.
How was the mix? Was it sick?
It sounded like ArcSpire.
Right on.
But it sounded kind of stupid though. I don't know. I don't know enough about this, but what I've seen is that a lot of the really smart people who work on it are saying that what they're good at is doing specific tasks. So when you see like that robot doing the backflips or the trapeze acts, that's the one thing they do.
That's specific.
That's what
Their
they're
Boston
programmed.
Dynamics.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. What they're programmed to do. They're not like T2000s that are thinking for themselves and have a purpose. They're just machines that are doing something really cool.
That fucking robot dog thing.
The Google dog things.
that thing's terrifying.
Get away
haven't
from
seen
me.
that.
Have you seen the Black Mirror episode with the fucking robot
No.
dog chasing the woman? It's like
No.
black and white. It's
No.
a sick episode.
No thanks.
But that's coming up.
What's the Google dog?
It's this. Do you want to explain it? It's what you're talking about.
Go for it.
It's just this quadruped robot thing that can't be.
But it's a real thing.
Like, you
can
can't
buy.
knock it over. You can, like, kick it.
If you kick it or shove it. It just goes.
The Boston Dynamics
Yeah,
thing?
it makes this horrifying sound that I'm just like, this is it. This is the end of humanity. That sound. So yeah,
That sound is it.
that sound is the bell tolling of a new age. But I think that, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because we don't know yet, but I feel like even if AI gets to the point where it can create, art or music or do production on the level that a human being can, I feel like it's always going to be pulling from examples that were created by humans, because I think no matter how far down the line we get with AI, you're probably not going to be able to simulate something like childhood trauma or, like the loss of a loved one or a divorce.
Until you have a robot or an AI that you're raising from birth, right? And
right.
It creates all those experiences.
Until an artificial intelligence achieves true sentience.
Right.
You won't get that. But once it does, then arguably
Yeah.
You're kind
it
of
has
far
rights.
off from that.
And there's actually there's a great book that I read it twice actually. It's called Homo Deus. It's by Noel Harari. He's the guy who wrote *Sapiens*, which is kind of like a history of human civilization, and Homo Deus is kind of his follow-up, and it's his speculation on what is to come. And there's a lot of really eye-opening things in that. I mean, I can't even begin to paraphrase any portions of it, but it's definitely a good read. So if stuff like that interests you about...
It does. I just don't think it's as bad as people think yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But we'll get there if we don't blow ourselves up first, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably not in our lifetimes though.
Yeah, maybe not.
Hopefully.
I mean, I really hope that we don't achieve true sentient AI, because I mean, depending on how much control we have, who's to say that they can't control us? And it's a T2 type of scenario.
But why would they want to?
Why wouldn't they want to?
Your motorcycle.
You need your clothes, you put in your motorcycle. Well,
I watched
if
that
it
recently. It was pretty cool.
it views humanity as a threat, and if you think about it, I mean, we are a pretty awful species. You know, we do kill everything, and we're the most destructive species on the face of the earth.
Well, if it starts
in all
to
of
feel that
history.
way, just take out its battery pack.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it will probably
throw some water on it.
That'll
Yeah.
probably do it.
I think that like the one thing that I would definitely want to know once we have AI reaching, you know, its own self-awareness is it Kemper, Fractal, or Line 6? Which is best?
That's a good.
You know what I mean?
I don't know.
It'll have to know.
I
The
think
age-old argument, like
Kemper
Kemper
will-
or Axe Effects.
Kemper will eventually achieve sentience and just kill Axe Effects.
No, I just mean like, will there be an AI that will be able to
Give the correct
give
answer.
the correct answer?
Yeah.
Kemper or Axe Effects?
That's a really good question.
It's the age-old question.
Which do you prefer?
I like.
I mean, Kemper for sure.
All right.
I mean, look at the facts here. Kemper is on hardware revision number 0. Every update that company has had has been software based. They're still on the original hardware piece, and the shit sounds amazing.
Sounds like you've made up your mind.
I have.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Fractal has, you know, what, 5 hardware revisions at this point? I think it's I don't know if it's better or not. I just think it's kind of cool that Kemper got it right the first time.
I think it's two different pieces for two different purposes.
Yeah.
I mean, creating a tone from scratch with an Axe Effects is a completely different thing than capturing an existing tone with a Kemper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, that's why they're sort of
agree with
separate units for different purposes.
I'm also very stupid, and that's why
I like how
think
this
that.
became like the Joe Rogan podcast for a minute.
Did it? Yeah.
Hey,
All this AI talk.
he's got a great podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually had an astrophysicist on here.
Really?
It's coming out today. He measures the sound that planets make, and
Wild.
yeah, it's
Whoa.
really wild. That's why I had him on, because I guess there's some link to audio engineering. I also just wanted a chance to talk to someone way smarter than me.
That's real sick.
But yeah, we're starting to go in weird directions.
I just read that
'cause-
book, Astrophysics for People in a Hurry.
I read that too.
How is it?
It's good.
It's good.
It's great.
Is it for people in a hurry, or do you actually?
Yeah,
have to
you're
be
in a
smart?
hurry. It's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Okay.
The
I
Cosmos.
like that episode that you guys did with who was the woman that she
Susan Rogers.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a sick episode.
Yeah, that was really sick, and I love talking to people that smart, because I don't have to do much.
Yeah.
I just base it. It's like riding a wild horse. I didn't need to make sure it stays on track.
Yeah.
But really, you just
Let him go.
let him go.
Yeah, just the part
It's
where
awesome.
the part where she was talking about taking like a group of people who are like as far as music theory goes, they have no idea what's going on, just, you know, general listeners, and then you have another group where people like do have a lot of knowledge on music theory, and like when you play them the same thing, like I guess there's like only like a 5% variance in like how music is interpreted by people who don't know what's going on theoretically versus people who do. It's like such a small margin of error.
It's really interesting. I was actually talking to Jesse Cannon about this a couple days ago, when I was stranded in Florida. He used to work with Ross Robinson,
Yeah.
and Ross likes to have lots of people in the control room at all times, like a party, like girlfriends, friends, like the whole band, which is the farthest thing from how I would ever want to work in my life.
Yeah.
But he likes it to be a community thing. And if like the bassist girlfriend says something like that sounds weird or whatever, he'll listen to them and takes that into consideration, which is, I thought was really interesting, because lots of musicians and producers do not take into consideration what any person not in the project or not qualified
Yeah.
say. But what he does actually fits in line with what Susan
Yeah.
Rogers was saying, that non-trained music people, just the consumers, actually have just almost as sophisticated of a, at least, reaction.
They're just going
to
to hear
music.
it differently
Yeah.
and have different emotional reaction to things.
Objectivity is one of the most important things, I think. in audio and music production. So if you get someone who doesn't know any of the technical stuff and is completely objective to weigh in, then that's valuable feedback, you know?
Do you guys like having a bunch of people in the control room?
All right, so from a workflow perspective, that would definitely not work
God,
with me.
it would
I hate
make
it
me
when
insane.
people are behind me yapping and or you know, it's super distracting. So I actually, the less people in the control room, like if you don't need to be there or if you're not offering input or something, I like it like more minimal. But I do like showing the music or the mix or in process or whatever to people who are objective. And that's actually one of the things that I think makes our workflow, Grant and my workflow, work pretty well because we're in separate rooms all the time. So we retain relative objectivity from what the other person's doing. So Grant can walk into my room after a couple hours of us both tracking and give us his input and vice versa, and it works really well. But the actual process of tracking, I definitely prefer less people.
Yeah, it would make me crazy.
That is really interesting, though.
It is, right?
Does he? I'm guessing that he doesn't like prep them with this. You know, hey, I'm looking for your feedback. He just doesn't mind if they're there.
He tells people. He tells the band and his engineers to apparently to bring people. Just like it's a thing. It's a known thing. This is going to be like a fun time, and
is that just while he's mixing?
I think it's the whole time, except for maybe specific situations where it's not. But apparently,
it would drive me nuts.
Yeah, it would drive me nuts too. I can't handle it when the whole band is in the room. You know,
I could see for depending on what kind of record it is, I could see if you had people there just for mixing, that might add some interesting flavors to the mix, maybe. Like if you're making a more psychedelic record or whatever, or a stranger kind of record, a bunch of people smoking weed in a room together might, a good idea might pop up or something like that. Just for mixing though,
Absolutely.
but for tracking or any of that stuff, like probably not. I don't know. I feel like they would just get in the way. So, but as far
especially for the kind of music you make.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the tracking process and editing process, it's tedious, but I mean, when me and Carson he was mixing the record and I was kind of sitting there the whole time at the end. Like, I don't know, I had a lot of fun during those days.
It was great.
Like,
I thought that was a very creative process.
Yeah,
actually.
it was a very like in the moment feeling sort of thing. It wasn't like a clinical environment or anything. I feel like we got a lot of good ideas out for the mixing of the record and shared ideas with one another. So I think there's time and place for both.
Yeah,
both ways.
And I think also an important element of that is just as the artist, you being open-minded, and me as the guy mixing it, like being open-minded as well. And if you have a good collaborative rapport, I suppose, then that will lead to more interesting product.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, is having the artist being open to suggestions.
Sure.
Because I know guys that are just absolutely closed off from that kind of thing. But even though I write most of the music for the band, I'm usually not attached to anything. Like if someone has something, that they want to bring to the table, even if they haven't been involved with the writing process from the beginning, I'm usually like completely open to it. I mean, me and Carson collaborated on one track on this record, and it's like probably my favorite song on the record. It's like just like really heavy kind of 9 Inch Nails sort of song. And when I brought it to the studio, it was basically just an acoustic guitar and drum song.
Right.
And Carson, we're both big Trent Reznor fans, and just kind of went down a rabbit hole talking about that. And the song took like a whole different like turn.
It was
after
sick.
that. Yeah, it was awesome.
I love where it ended up. But that's a great example, because like neither of us knew kind of where it was going to go, and we just kind of let it do its thing.
Yeah, and it, like I said, it's one of my favorite songs on the record.
Yeah,
and same thing with the vocal production. The way that they run their studio is, I think it's really cool, because Grant will at least at the old location, Grant would be upstairs doing vocals with half of the band, and I would be downstairs with Carson, working on whatever. And I would go upstairs after 4 or 5 hours, and they would have a whole song done that I had literally never heard, vocals on, and that would allow me to like hear things from an objective point of view, especially on this last record, because we incorporated clean singing, which was never something that we did before, and is oftentimes a source of debate in the death metal community. So I didn't know how I was going to feel about that, because Biggs, our bassist, who's also our lyricist, he told me we were going to be doing clean vocals on the record, and I was instantly kind of like, okay, are we going to do this? Is we going to be one of those bands?
It's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, but it's so
road.
silly because it's not. And like, I went upstairs the one day, never having heard clean vocals on our music, and Grant hits the space bar, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course. And that's the song that is this month's Nail the Mix.
Yeah.
So it was cool being able to walk into that situation having never heard it, and then hearing all of a sudden this song with tons of clean singing on it. So it was cool.
Hell
That
yeah.
could go either way.
Oh,
with a
absolutely.
Death metal band.
They just happened to nail it. And
Yeah.
I think Grant has a really good ear for building, whether it's choruses or harmonies or whatever. Like, he has a really good ear for that kind of thing. And I think him and Biggs and Jake, our vocalist, worked really well together to do what ended up being on the record. And I think the fact that we had never done it before, having Grant in the room, who's worked on a lot of records before, where he's had to build melodies and harmonies and stuff like that. I think that was an incredibly useful part for the making of the record.
I think it just helps to have that objective party no
Yeah.
matter what, because obviously you guys, you like live in a van or like in a
Yeah.
room together for so long, you're gonna butt heads creatively on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So you sort of need that other person to step in and be like, let's figure this out.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that works in any scenario.
Yeah, their process is so sick. I mean, I've talked to a lot of friends who have recorded with other people, and it's usually just like one person, and they're pretty much doing everything. And I think it's cool that they have the system worked out that they do, because it allows them to be outside of the box and then come into the box whenever they want to.
And work at what they're best at. What is it you don't like about recording vocals?
I wouldn't
Because
say
you told me that it's
So,
not
my
your thing.
It's not my thing at all. I've recorded plenty of vocals in the past because I was recording before Grant and I started recording together. It's not that I dislike it, it's that it's my least favorite part of the process.
Same here.
And Grant is just extremely good at it. So it was just kind of, this is how this relationship works. And it benefits both of us. He plays to his strength, I play to my strength. When we're both happy, we save time. Works. So
For me, it's just that I don't know, like, I would hear things for other instruments, like, it would come to me. It's just, I get inspired by it and want to do it. And with vocals, it would always just be like, well, I'm doing it because we have to record vocals.
Right.
But it wouldn't, I don't know, the light, the switch just wouldn't really come on for vocals in the same way as everything else.
yeah, it's same thing for me. It's just my, and I don't know if it's for any really specific reason. It's just kind of my least. It had always been my least favorite part of the whole process.
I know why. I hate lyrics. So
Lyrics are that's the thing too. Is that a song that I've been in scenarios before where I thought the song was really great, and then the vocals come in and the lyrics just completely ruin it for me.
yeah.
But then you have the guy's girlfriend sitting in the back of the room who says, I love that part, right? Like,
And then you're good.
It can get messy.
I don't know. For me personally, music has always had its own meaning. Just the way it sounds has been one thing, and I've always thought it's really pure. And then when you add, and hey, I love lots of bands with great lyrics, but for me, creating music, I always felt like adding lyrics how do I say this? Almost dumbs it down a little. I mean, it doesn't. There's great vocals and great lyrics out there for sure. But for me creatively, it didn't work because there's something about adding language to it that I feel takes away from how deep or pure of a
How universal it is otherwise.
Yeah, like whatever that expression is.
Like now it's specific.
Yeah, it's specific and it's much, I think, more mundane. I don't mean mundane as in like shopping for groceries. I mean mundane as in like down to earth.
I was going to say shopping for groceries is extremely exciting for me.
You like it?
Oh, dude, it's the highlight of my week.
I haven't shopped for groceries in a long time. I hate it.
I'm just kidding. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah, it's
having
the
to
worst.
go to the store for anything, honestly.
Instacart, give me a sponsorship, please.
Is Amazon delivering groceries yet?
They do.
In like larger markets, I think.
Not near us though.
I don't know.
Well, do you have a Whole Foods near you?
We actually, a Whole Foods just went up near us.
Then you probably will have Amazon delivering.
That's right. They have a
groceries
partnership
soon.
now. Or do they own Whole Foods?
They do.
They do, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so their grocery delivery is Whole Foods.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
I'm going to have to hook that up.
I would. Fuck going.
Yeah, seriously.
It's such a waste of time.
Yeah, I hate going to the fucking grocery store. Man.
I hate anything that just adds time that I don't feel is a good use of my life. And it doesn't just have to be work. Like, it's not that I'm wasting this time not working. It's that I'm just wasting this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could be with my dog or something.
Dude, I've noticed this at this point. Like, everything shows up at my house now, like in a box. My
great.
wife orders everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love modern life.
I still go to the grocery store, unfortunately. And there's a robot there. Giant Foods has robots at their stores now.
What do the robots do?
Fucking get in my way.
They move around the store.
It's a cleaning robot, I
so
think.
first
Oh,
of
it's a
all,
cleaning robot.
these robots are shaped like the fucking monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they have googly eyes on them.
It looks like Gumby.
And he has a name tag that says Marty, and he's shaped like the fucking monolith.
Is it like Tars from Interstellar? You know the big blocky robot?
Kinda. It's like
How tall is it?
Like 7 feet tall. It's horrifying.
It's kind of like a military state type thing.
Dude, he just rolls around. I know like half of the reason he's there is so they can like see what's going on, you know, because there's
I think
cameras all over.
employees have been fired from conversations that it picks up.
Well,
Big
doesn't
Marty.
surprise me,
Yeah.
but he
Marty's a narc.
gets in my way. He's a fucking cop, dude. He just gets in my way. Like, I go into the grocery store and he's supposed to be there to, like, I don't know, make shit easier for people, and he just like has sensors so that when anyone gets around him, he just stops and he just sits in the middle of the fucking aisle. I'm like, move. And it's not helpful at all. It's terrifying. I've seen children scream at him. Like, I don't know. Like, it has to be a lawsuit waiting to happen. Like, what if what if it runs over someone's foot or some shit? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's all backwards. But
So you're not a fan of Marty.
no, but I see him all the time because I go to the grocery store all the time.
Sounds like you need to try Instacart.
I do. I go to Giant to get my my flavored seltzer water. I'm on that whole thing now.
That's good.
Yeah,
Sparkling water is the best.
I'm really down with that shit.
I
You should get a soda
La
stream.
Croix?
Yeah. Yes.
You like that shit?
Grapefruit.
All right.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
I've never actually had it.
We call it spicy water.
That's like the worst of the sparkling
I
water.
know.
It's like the Pabst Blue Ribbon.
How do you feel about
It is.
Perrier?
In a glass bottle, it's awesome.
Yeah?
I'm not crazy about I'm a sparkling water snob. Plastic bottle is a little weird. I think because it just doesn't stay the right temperature
Right.
long enough. Sparkling water gets really weird the moment it starts to get warm. Like, almost undrinkable. So
Yeah.
the glass bottle keeps it colder and therefore better. But something about La Croix or whatever, I definitely think it's like the Pabst.
Oh, it
Blue Ribbon of
absolutely
sparkling
is.
water.
It's just there and it's cheap. But so being that you're a sparkling water snob, does that mean that while you were touring, you like loved touring in Europe because everything?
No, because the thing is, in Europe, they like shit room temperature.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than being on stage in like a club that has like 8-foot ceilings in the summer.
Hell
and
yeah.
you're dying and you see water on stage and you reach over.
Warm, sparkling
Warm,
water.
spicy
warm,
water.
sparkling water
Hell
when
yeah.
you're not expecting it.
Yep.
Oof.
It's good shit, dude.
Might as well drink
Yeah.
a cup of piss.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd maybe it's healthier or something.
It's a hot issue.
Tastes better.
For sure. The spicy water debacle when we toured over there recently with Archspire and Revocation, and there was like a pretty clear division between the bands on spicy water. So
The thing is, spicy water in a can is kind of gross.
yeah,
I think it's got to be in a glass bottle and it's got to be fucking cold. Those are two.
yeah,
The carbonation also makes a really big difference. And
yeah.
some of these companies, they put these weird artificial flavors in them that just have a weird aftertaste. I don't know.
You're giving me a complex. I'm gonna like be thinking about all
Voss
this shit.
Sparkling, try that.
Okay,
That's the good shit.
I'll ask
That's
From
the one with
Norway.
the real artsy bottle, right?
Yeah, it's pretty
Voss?
artsy. It's great though.
So-
I'll ask Marty where it's at. And
I'm not a
their
spicy water guy.
their still water comes in a plastic bottle. You can find it at a gas station. It's not so good. But
Yeah.
the black cap,
Okay,
a glass sparkling.
It's like a
Voss.
single cylinder
Yeah.
type thing. Yeah, I've seen.
check it
Fucking
out.
Good.
I'm intrigued.
Speaking of robots, I was in a hotel recently in LA. I forgot my toiletries somewhere, and I called the front desk to ask if they had some, and they were like, "We'll send some right up." And
They sent a robot.
I got a phone call, and it was a robot talking to me, saying, "I'm at your door."
That's
And I
terrifying.
opened it, and the robot was at the door with my stuff.
That's
Kind of cool.
that is cool.
I posted a picture of it
I
because
think I saw that. It
Yeah.
looked a lot friendlier than Marty. Marty
It was
just
friendly,
looks like
bro,
a
my
fucking
shit.
monster. But yeah, it was a little. It wasn't like a little round cute thing or.
it was like a trash can with wheels.
Okay, that's anything is better than Marty the fucking monolith. Like, it's fucked up. I'm gonna show you guys a picture of it later.
So let's talk about mixing
Yeah.
for a second.
All right.
Sorry. Really, I want to talk about saxophone.
Oh
I
God.
want to talk about saxophone too.
Yeah. So why? Why?
Well, what would you do if you ran out of ideas?
Not saxophone.
I don't. Oh,
I mean, you guys just pull it
It
off.
works, though,
I'll give you
right?
that.
Yeah.
It's just I was telling him that it's like my most hated instrument.
Yeah.
I fucking hate saxophone, and it could be trauma from going to Berkeley, but
Did you play saxophone?
no.
Oh.
Of course not. But
of course.
I just
Did a
hate.
saxophone hurt you, AL?
No,
Where did the saxophone touch you?
I don't know.
Sax offender?
Point on the doll.
Sax
Maybe it was
pretty good.
It was so bad. It was
my
so
dad
bad I
joke
blocked it
for the
out.
day.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I don't know. You guys do it all right though. Like
Thanks.
yeah. So,
I don't do it.
But why?
Man,
Why?
I mean,
Because it's sick.
yeah, I
Like,
guess, but
What other reason?
But it's not a sick instrument.
grew
it's sick
up-
on their shit though.
I grew up listening to a lot of music that had it on there, and to me, it just always sounded like something that belonged in music. I listened to a lot of my dad. My dad's 66, so like he grew up in the golden age of progressive rock. So my start in music was with King Crimson and Pink Floyd and Yes and all those bands. And all those bands utilized the saxophone pretty extensively. And it just always sounded...
Pink Floyd did it all right.
Yeah, Pink Floyd, David Bowie, he used it quite a bit as well. Like, you know, I don't know, it always sounded like it belonged in music to me. And I actually played the saxophone for a while. Obviously didn't
I
stick
liked
with
you
it.
up until today.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
need a picture of that.
I don't know if there are any pictures. Jake played the saxophone too.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. He played like the baritone
I want
sax.
you guys. I want a picture of you guys playing sax together.
There's a picture of Jake with a saxophone and with leg braces because he used to have like a spinal
like
thing.
Forrest Gump.
Hell yeah.
Wow, dude.
Yeah,
Sick.
absolutely. Very sick. And there's a picture of that does exist, so I'll have to dig that up.
I'm gonna have to see that one.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll ask him
And he's
for
got a
it.
saxophone in the picture.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Wow.
He's
All
holding it, smiling.
Forrest Gump with a fucking saxophone
Oh man,
with a lisp.
That is what
he's never gonna
play,
watch
too.
this, so it's okay that we're talking about this.
I love Jake. I love him.
but,
I love his lisp.
Yeah, I don't know. It was always an instrument that I enjoyed, and I recorded a local death metal band from our area many years ago, and the bass player in that band, or the guitar player in that band, Zach Strauss, he was going to Westchester University for jazz performance, and he was a saxophone player. That was his primary instrument. And he was like casually, just like more or less as a joke, he's like, hey man, hit me up if you ever want me to throw some sax on a Rivers song or whatever. So I was writing these songs for Where Owls Know My Name, and just had these big open sections where I was like, oh, I guess I can play a really long guitar solo that nobody wants to hear, or we could try something else. So I kind of just sent him what became our song called The Silent Life, and I was like, see what you can do with it. And he sent it back a couple days later, and that's what basically ended up on the record, and kind of just rolled with it from there. We kind of wanted to make the sax work with the material, not like when it pops up like, oh, there's the saxophone part, which I hate.
Here's a funny thing that happens in the song.
I hate quirky shit like that, like especially when death metal bands do it, like just like silly shit for the sake of being there. So
it's not like that with you guys, and if it was, I would have been really weird about having it on.
Yeah,
but you guys, it's not like that. You guys pull it off.
It feels appropriate for the song.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, Zach is like easily the most talented musician that played on our record. I mean, all the stuff that ended up on the album, like we stuck a Royer 121 in front of his sax, and he did all that shit in like one take. Like, he's sick. I don't know. We just wanted to make sure that the record, or that the sax parts didn't sound forced. Like, there were a few parts that we threw out, just because they sounded too abrupt or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it was an accident that sax ended up on the record. I just happened to meet Zach at the right time when I was writing the record, and he ended up on the album, and I've just kind of always liked the sax. And now I hate the saxophone because it's ruined my life for the last year.
Hey, you're in that band with the saxophone, right?
Not actually, but it's funny. Finn McKenty posted something yesterday about putting a bunch of bands in band prison about, changing their sound or something, and I commented on it. I was like, you got any room for dumbasses that put saxophone on their death metal records in there, in this band prison? And someone commented on it, was like, are you talking about Rivers of Nihil? And I was like, yeah, fuck those guys. And the dude like never caught on. It's like so stupid how they put a sax on their record. So, but yeah, I mean, definitely, we've become known as the saxophone band, I guess. So here we are.
Well, what about mixing wise? Isn't it? How did you? I mean, I know we're going to talk about it on Nail the Mix, but conceptually, mix wise, I feel like sometimes adding acoustic instruments on music like that can go really weird because they can just sound really out of place. Yeah. How did you approach getting it to not stick out?
From a technical mix perspective, there's nothing really that special. I think it's just like some EQ and might have compressed a little bit, and there's like some delay in verb, but
pretty much how you would treat a vocal.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it honestly, for me, it's more just the context of what
it's a good arrangement.
It's a great arrangement, a great song. It's appropriate for the moment it happens in the song and on the other songs that it happens in on the album. It's just a well-written piece of music, so it's not hard to make sound good in a mix. You know?
I guess that's usually what the problem is when people start throwing in acoustic instruments on this stuff, is it's not well written.
It's not thought through enough.
Yeah, and so it ends up sounding weird.
As they say in Australia.
Yes, undercooked for sure. Well, I think this is a good time to stop this. I want to thank you guys for coming on the URM podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's been fun.
Very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great time. Thanks so much, dude.